Henry, what is your topic today?
So, there's something that I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to talk about, and I finally was able to actually put it into words on how to describe it. So,
Okay.
I have this thing that I call VHS memories.
Okay. Walk me through it. Take me on a walk. What does this mean?
So, to me, what a VHS memory is, it refers to memories that are deep inside your head, not because they're bad or anything, but just because you haven't thought of them at all.
Reappear every now and then.
And when you see something, it just like triggers something in your head where it's like, I remember that.
Like, this is stored here.
So sort of like hard-hitting nostalgia.
Yeah.
Nostalgia in like sort of places that you wouldn't expect almost.
Like things that you don't remember until you remember them.
Yeah.
And I call them VHS memories because when I was a kid, it was like the last few years of like VHS tapes still being sold. Because the way that I think back on them is often like I haven't seen them in so long that they're distorted in my head.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
like
that's a good way
like VHS magnetic
describe
tapes.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because, like VHS tapes, you're never going to find them unless you're specifically looking for them, or you move something wrong and it just falls out.
Yeah.
And so the example that came to me when I thought about this was, there was this one VHS tape that I watched a lot as a kid,
Uh-huh.
and it was the Dragon Ball Z made-for-TV movie, where it's Future Trunks and Gohan.
Oh, okay.
And I remember this very specifically because it was the only Dragon Ball Z tape I had. So I watched it a lot.
Yeah.
And like a lot of it is like burned into my head in a lot of ways. Like the way that like in Dragon Ball Z, how it looked when buildings fell over, and like the weird synth music Dragon Ball Z always had, like the dome, boom, dome, dome. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And like, I remember being so upset when Gohan died, I would restart the tape to see if it ended differently. I was young when this happened.
Yeah.
But like, another example I had that I only realized recently was, so even though you do not care about wrestling at all,
No.
you've probably heard of the Hardy Boys, the wrestling team.
You guys talked about them before, yeah.
Yeah. And I never thought about them before, but I watched I'll give you a picture to see if it jogs anything in your head. Like, I remember, I remember, like, when I was young, like, 2004, like, seeing, like, their promos on, like, TV. And it gave me this really weird feeling of, like, this kind of explains one part of, like, your psyche has a landscape.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that you can't explain why it's there.
Yeah.
And like seeing that explains something of like why part of that psyche is like there in the landscape. And I was wondering if you guys had any examples of stuff like this.
For me, I actually know what you're talking about too. It's just like dug deep memories that don't come up naturally, just when there's like a visual like association with something that might have to do with it. For me, that happens most commonly with like music.
Yeah.
And it'll be like music that's associated with like certain movie or like TV show or something. But what'll happen is I might hear that song anyways, and then it'll also revert me back to like where I first heard it.
Tachyon!
Where it was embedded. Another weirdly specific and slightly more unusual one is certain movie quotes that'll be stuck in my head. Like I'll hear it in the same voice and the same tone and everything, just like kind of rung in my head, and then I will never remember exactly what movie it's from. But if I were to ever watch it again, I'd be like, "Holy shit! No what? Like that part sounded so familiar."
That's the movie.
That's the guy who voices him. And yeah, but yeah, it would just kind of pop up like. Definitely not spontaneously, but like you said, it has to be kind of like triggered. But yeah.
Another way to think of it is just there was a really weird aesthetic to the years like 2004.
Yeah.
Around there. Like, and I know this because I went into a CEX for the first time a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I'm just like, oh God, I'm in 2000. It's like 2007. Because it had the thing where it's like GameStop logos where everything's like, it had like the old GameStop logos where everything was like pointed.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like-
yeah.
like that exact kind of thing.
Sort of like EB Games almost.
Yeah, I miss EB Games.
Yeah.
And they still sold PS2 games at CEX.
Yeah.
Or like it's just that kind of stuff
Yeah.
of like, why is this the thing that I recall?
Actually, oh, you go first, Barrett. I have a good example, but I had to think of a way to word it.
I talked about this a little bit in our exclusive episode for Talking Shit this month, but just sort of an example was the BioShock Infinite, where I slowly hear that song, and like I couldn't place it at first, and then it was like a hard hit of like, oh shit, like my dad had me listen to Elizabeth Cotten a lot when I was a kid, and like this brought up like a bunch of memories of just like being in the backseat of my dad's car on like fucking hot days in the middle of the summer and like riding around with him, like, and like sort of that like weird association game right there. The sort of like I've been thinking about like just weird memories and like sort of like what was going on is like the Donkey Kong TV show, where I had just like the one VHS of it, and it was the magic of the crystal thing or whatever, and I always thought it was just
special episode where Diddy Kong gets addicted to crystal meth.
Yes,
And wears pants.
and I always thought it was like a one-off, and then like it was so weird discovering recently that was like a fully developed like series that went on for a while, and that was like finding that out was like a really weird, like I remember like this after like school
Bless you.
care thing that I would go to for like for this like 1 year, and bringing like every Thursday we would have this like movie day, and like a couple students would come in, bring their own movies, and we would like all vote on like what to watch. And I remember 2 weeks in a row we watched that Donkey Kong one because it won 1 week, and then like I always had the movies that won because I know how to pick the good movies. At one point,
Cars 5 times in a row.
no, actually, I was proud of myself for I brought in the Iron Giant at one point.
Yeah, Brad Bird.
Yeah, this is like that was like just such a weird thing because that was not a very long time in my life. That was only like 6 months or something. But like I have a lot of weird memories there of like watching movies with a lot of people. I remember bringing in Iron Giant. I remember bringing in is it Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory or Charlie in the Chocolate Factory?
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is the new
book.
one.
And the book,
Yeah.
I think. So I remember bringing Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, and also Donkey Kong. And the reason we watched it 2 weeks in a row was because the second week, everybody else forgot to bring a movie, and like I had just accidentally still had it in my bag. I was like, oh hey, I have this again if we want to watch it.
From then on, no one talked to you at that school.
He's
a Donkey Kong kid.
That was a weird. It wasn't even like at my school. Like I went to somewhere else for this after school program, and
No, none of them liked you.
No, I was pretty well liked. I brought in all the cool movies,
Like Donkey Kong.
like Donkey
Twice.
Kong, twice.
You started a
On
Donkey
accident.
Kong cult.
I just thought of 3 examples for me. I can only remember 2 of them at the moment, but so 3 of them for me are that one was also like just clips from things that you otherwise completely remember, but it's like for some reason it's only those that stick in. It's only tiny clips that stick in your head. So one of them was every VHS copy of a movie I had. Or maybe it was also like early DVDs. Every movie and every VHS tape I had the same commercial for The Thief and the Cobbler.
Huh. Okay.
Do you remember this movie?
Yeah,
No.
I actually do.
I remember the name. I don't remember like
It had
what it was about.
it had the white looking guy. It was an animated film that looked like Aladdin.
No, I don't remember this.
It was definitely a movie.
Okay.
Another
I
one was
remember
when
it.
I was a kid, and it was this adult party that my parents took me to because they were just like, we couldn't find a babysitter. They put me in a room and put on a cartoon, and it ended up being that episode of South Park where the turkeys eat out Kenny's eyes.
Oh no.
So that's in my head forever.
So I remember just like a weird sort of. It was my first time going to Denver to visit the family who lives there. Like I had met them before, but it was my first time going to Denver. And my dad had gone out or something that night to like party with his cousins. And so my great uncle, it was in the middle of the summer, and Denver actually like is pretty like warm in the summer. So we were in like this we were in the back yard of the house where we were sleeping in like sort of not a trailer, but like an addition to a car. Like it wasn't super big, but it had a couple beds and like a little TV. That was the first time I ever watched South Park, and it was the one where the kids are being kidnapped, and so they want to make a big wall to surround the city, and the Mongolians keep coming to tear it down.
Stop the Mongolians!
I gotta get this sweet South Park.
That was the first
When
episode
he
of
does
South.
it, it's less offensive.
And that wasn't even of like my own choice. My great uncle had put that on. He was like, "Yeah, South Park, right?" And he just like
got
sort of laughed.
cartoons.
And I was like, "All right."
I don't get it. But all right.
Another cartoon you might feel randomly nostalgic for. Does anyone else remember Mike, Lou, and Og?
No, I remember Og. I remember that name for some reason.
It was a Nickelodeon cartoon. I think it was animated by Klasky Cooper.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was these 3 kids on like an island,
Yeah.
on like a desert island.
Yeah.
And it was like one of those shows where it's like, this was never popular like the other Nicktoons, but it was still on sometimes.
Yeah.
Like before they found SpongeBob, and that ran our whole thing. Another one was the Brothers Flub.
Yeah. I don't remember that one either.
No one does.
A really weird one, and like I can never find it, is the sort of the Nicktoons shorts that they would do that were only a couple minutes, and they would do this for like 30 minutes, right?
Wild cartoons.
Wild cartoons. And it was before Kids Next Door. There was a short with that same animator and I think the same writer who did a short for Wild Cartoons before Kids Next Door was a thing. And it was about like, I think like a job interview or something. And I was always so obsessed with that short because like I thought it was so weird. And so it was weird. It was not anything like Kids Next Door. It was like off-putting in a way. And I was so obsessed with that when I was a kid. And another sort of weird... These are 3 really weird things that I always associate with each other, and it's Akira, it's NSYNC, and it's Final Fantasy.
Simultaneously?
All simultaneously, because when I was
dun ba 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 bang bang.
because my babysitter. Okay, there, buddy. Canada.
Canada.
My babysitter at the time, like that was like what like they exposed me. It was like my dad's girlfriend's family at the time. Her sister was really into NSYNC, and I remember like
As a good person is.
listening to a lot of NSYNC and watching a lot of NSYNC music videos around that time. And then my dad's girlfriend, like both of her siblings were really into Akira, and I remember watching Akira a lot as a kid. And then that was my favorite scene, like when the dream sequence with like the dolls. And shit.
Yeah,
That was
the
my
milk.
favorite scene. I thought it was so
Hey, there's
weird, but
3
I
of
loved
us.
it.
Let's see. We can do the entire thing.
Blump, blump.
I don't remember enough of it. I need to be refreshed.
But and then Final Fantasy X specifically. Final Fantasy X and actually
You mean the beach episode?
6. Specific. What's the sport that you can play in 10?
Blitzball!
Blitzball. I remember Blitzball a lot, like
For being stupid.
for being awesome. It was such like a cool
Final
like
Fantasy's
sort
dumb.
of Final Fantasy is dumb. 15 is gonna be awful.
It's gonna be great.
No, it's gonna be fucking awful.
Car ride.
I just remember I just associate those things because I just remember like that house specifically ties those things all together. So that's like a very sort of like that's the closest I can get with like what you're talking about.
You know
Like,
what song always makes me think of when I was a kid? When you walk away, won't you hear me say, please
That makes me
don't,
think.
baby.
That makes me think
don't
of when
go.
the craze came in. I didn't have a PS2 to enjoy it, so I was just the bitter kid on the side, just like you weebs.
And then you found out you were the weeb.
I was like, I enjoyed it.
I've become what I've hated this entire time.
The weeb.
So up until the age of 15, I had like these kind of looming, haunting memories of this man with a crescent moon face and sunglasses, kind of playing a piano,
walk this way.
kind of sliding across the plane of like my mental vision, and I'm just like, who the fuck is this guy?
Do you ever find out who it is?
I found out what Max-Tonight was that same year, and I'm like, he's real.
When you walk this
Yeah, all I knew was that he had some association with McDonald's.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
Okay, we're gonna get a copyright strike.
I was so astounded to be like, oh no, it's real. The Moon Man from my nightmares. He's here after me. But
Remind me
that
to
was, like,
show you
biggest
the
one.
Moon Man video.
Do you have any more?
I can't think of any. Like, well, that's
It's
an
an interesting topic. It's sort of like it's a hard one to capture.
Yeah, and also
But it's an
like,
interesting
the whole
one. I like
part,
it.
the whole thing about it is that you can't think of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They only hit when it's like glass falls. Wait. You ever have that where you just hear a noise and like suddenly
Yeah,
like,
like
everything
you have just like
changes?
that weird association with something. Yeah.
I once had a thing where I heard a noise when I was sleeping, and suddenly in my head I could picture the entirety of the Arkham Knight map in Lego form.
What?
Lego form?
Yeah.
You're
When you walk this
You're an interesting person. I love you. No.